Ladies, let me tell you something now. If you keep falling in love with potential, you'll keep waking up beside disappointment. I need you to hear me with your whole soul today, because I'm not here to preach what sounds good. I'm here to tell you what saves lives. Emotional lives, mental lives, financial lives. I'm here to pull you out of that quiet suffering you've been calling love and show you the light in your own mirror. Because baby, that man you're waiting on to change, the one you keep pouring into, praying over, paying for, building with, suffering beside, he's not your purpose. He's your pattern. And that pattern will keep draining you dry. Let's talk about it. Let's tear this open. You fell in love with his heart, not his habits. You saw the glimmer of greatness in his eyes and ignored the red in his flags. You believed in him more than he believed in himself. You thought your love could upgrade him, transform him, heal him, save him, fix him. But love isn't a hospital, sis. And you are not a rehab center. You keep dating potential because someone convinced you that loving harder makes you stronger. That struggling makes it real. That loyalty means staying long after your soul starts leaking. But I'm here to tell you, loyalty to dysfunction is self-betrayal. There's a difference between a man with dreams and a man with direction. You chose hope that he'll grow, hope that he'll commit. Hope that if you just hold on long enough, he'll finally show up as the version of him you imagined in your head. But hope without evidence is delusion. And a relationship built on maybes will never become a marriage built on movement. Let's stop dressing up chaos and calling it character development. You're not crazy for wanting more. You're not bitter for drawing the line. You're not selfish for choosing your peace over potential. And no, you're not giving up too soon. You're just waking up to the truth that love without reciprocity is a slow form of death. You cannot build a kingdom with a man who thinks in playgrounds. You cannot raise children with a man who won't even raise his own standards. And you cannot build a future with a man who is still fighting the ghosts of his past and dragging you into the war zone. Sis, how long will you be his emotional crutch while limping through your own healing? He says he's working on himself, but he's been working for years with no growth, no goals, no action. You're the only one who's evolved. You're the one carrying the weight, solving the problems, making the plans. And deep down, you already know he doesn't love you like you love him. He loves your effort. He loves your nurturing. He loves the way you mother him. But a man who needs a mother will never make a good husband. So why are you still there? Let me tell you why. Because you've been taught that patience is proof of love, that endurance is feminine, that long suffering is strength. But let me redefine strength for you. Strength is saying, I love you, but I love me more. Strength is walking away from a man who's comfortable with you being uncomfortable. Strength is choosing clarity over confusion. Strength is refusing to build a throne for a man who won't even fight for the crown. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person. You think starting over is hard. Try staying in a relationship that's not growing. Try waking up every morning next to someone who doesn't see you. Try shrinking your light just to protect his ego. That's what real hard looks like. That's what emptiness becomes. Potential is seductive. It whispers promises that the future will be better. It paints pictures of what could be if he just tried. But girl, you're not dating his future. You're dating his present. And the present is telling you everything you need to know. Stop falling in love with who he might become. Fall in love with who he actually is. Does he show up for you? Does he respect your time? Does he challenge you to grow? Or does he drain your strength? Does he give or does he just take? If you have to ask, you already know. Let me make it plain. If you have to become less to keep him, he was never yours to begin with. A man who truly wants to be better will already be becoming better. Not because you begged, not because you sacrificed, but because his vision for himself is so clear. He doesn't want to risk losing a woman like you. And let me say this loud. Your love should not require your suffering. Your healing does not require his approval. Your destiny does not need his permission. Your crown does not wait for his commitment. Stop auditioning for the role of wife in a man's life who hasn't even finished writing the script. You are not an extra. You are the headline. And hear me, you don't need closure. Closure is just permission to leave. Give it to yourself. No long text, no emotional breakdown, no final conversation. You don't need to explain your worth to someone who's been stepping over it like trash on the sidewalk. Walk away without the monologue, because when you walk in power, the world adjusts. And sis, this is what power looks like. It's not waiting on his change. It's being the change. It's building your own life so beautiful, so powerful, so whole, that you don't need to be rescued. Hope will have you fantasize. Power will have you building. Hope will have you waiting. Power will have you walking. Hope will keep you stuck. Power will set you free. So choose power every single time. Because the truth is, when you stop dating potential, you start attracting purpose. You start recognizing what a real man looks like. Not just someone who has ambition, but someone who's disciplined. Not just someone who wants you, but someone who pursues you. Not just someone who says the right things, but someone whose life aligns with his words. You are not hard to love. You've just been offering your love to men who can't hold it. You've been pouring your soul into cracked jars and wondering why you're always empty. You've been lighting fires in men who leave you cold. You've been showing up whole for men who are addicted to brokenness. But not any. From this day forward, you walk in wisdom. You walk in grace. You walk in discernment. You stop asking, does he love me? And start asking, does he honor me? Because love without honor is just noise. Love without respect is just a game. Love without effort is just performance. And love without action, that's just poetry for fools. So what do you do now? You level up. You get in alignment with the version of you that no longer chases, no longer begs, no longer settles. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-giving. You stop making excuses for grown men with little boy behavior. And you start requiring what you deserve. You set standards so high they stretch you. You surround yourself with women who call you higher. You pray not for a man but for discernment, to recognize the one who's. And until then, you live fully, loudly, beautifully, unapologetically. You walk in rooms like you own them. You invest in your peace like it pays rent. You build the life you've been waiting to be invited into. And when love finally shows up again, you're not afraid to say, show me the proof, not the potential, not the promises, the proof. Because the truth is, you're not too much, you're just finally choosing not to be left. And that, my love, is the beginning of everything you've ever prayed for. Because here's the thing, when you finally stop chasing potential, your entire spirit exhales. You stop feeling like you're always auditioning for a role that was never guaranteed. You stop rearranging your life for someone who won't even shift his mindset. You stop showing up with an open heart only to be met with closed hands. And in that stillness, in that silence after the storm of heartbreak, something remarkable happens. You meet the version of you who never needed saving, the version of you who remembers her worth without a mirror. The version of you who isn't scared of being alone, because alone is no longer lonely. It's powerful, it's peaceful, it's holy. And suddenly you stop negotiating with people who can't meet you where you already are. You stop sending just checking in texts. You stop decoding mixed signals like they're secret love letters. You stop hoping he'll realize your value when it's too late. Let him miss you. That's his lesson, not yours. Because once a woman chooses herself, the world shifts. The silence she once feared becomes her sanctuary. The space she once filled with desperate love becomes a temple of power. And in that temple she rebuilds, not with desperation, but with discipline. Discipline to not answer the late-night calls that smell like regret. Discipline to not lower her standards for temporary comfort. Discipline to trust that the loneliness is not a punishment, but preparation. And what is she being prepared for? Legacy. She's not just looking for love anymore. She's looking for alignment, for emotional equity, for spiritual depth, for peace that doesn't need to be earned through pain. The moment you stop begging for love, you begin attracting partnership, the real kind, the grown kind, the kind that doesn't flinch at your fire but fans it higher, the kind that sees your boundaries and doesn't challenge them but protects them. Because a real man doesn't ask you to prove yourself. He proves himself to be worthy of your presence, not through fancy words, not through temporary gestures, but through consistency, intentionality, and honor. So why do so many women settle? Because we were trained to romanticize struggle, to wear endurance like a badge of honor, to stay because our mothers stayed and our grandmothers endured, and somewhere deep down we thought our suffering would be the seed of a beautiful reward. But baby, survival isn't love. Endurance is an intimacy, and longevity means nothing if the foundation is built on emotional starvation. You don't win an award for being the last woman standing in a battlefield of broken promises. And here's the real truth. You don't have to be the woman who helps him become ready. That's not your job. You're not his mother. You're not his manager. You're not the light he chases. You are the standard he either rises to meet or falls beneath. And when you truly understand that, your energy shifts, your conversations change, your prayers become sharper. You no longer ask for anyone. You ask for someone who speaks your emotional language, honors your values, and doesn't need to be convinced to love you well. You start to realize that your femininity isn't weakness, it's magnetism. And when paired with power, it's unstoppable. You see, too many women dim their brilliance because they've been told they're too intimidating. But what if you're not too much? What if he's just not enough? What if your strength isn't the problem, but the test to see if a man can hold space for your full expression without trying to shrink it? A test to see if he can step into your world and expand it, not cage it. A test to see if he sees your ambition as a threat or a challenge to level up. And if he fails that test, let him go. You are not here to teach a grown man emotional literacy. You are not here to wait for him to stop flirting with chaos and start choosing peace. You are not here to explain why your silence means pain or why your tears aren't manipulation. They're the sound of love gasping for air. You deserve a man who reads the room, who reads you, who sees your discomfort before you speak, who doesn't just hear you but listens to understand, who doesn't play games because he's too grown for that and too focused on building with a woman who matches his frequency. And when you finally meet that man, you'll realize why none of the others worked, because he won't just show up for you when it's convenient. He'll show up for himself daily. He won't make you question your worth. He won't disappear when things get deep. He'll stand in the fire with you, not as your savior, but as your partner, because that's what power attracts: partnership, not projects. And let me be clear, you are not hard to love. You're just no longer easy to manipulate. You're no longer available for half love, for emotional crumbs, for the illusion of connection. You've grown too much, seen too much, healed too much, lost too much to settle for less than emotional clarity. So don't be afraid of your standards. They are the gatekeepers of your destiny, because who you love shapes your future. Who you align with either propels you forward or pulls you back into survival mode. And your purpose is too sacred, too rich, too massive to be compromised by someone who hasn't even shown up for himself. So what now? You rise. You stop entertaining what drains you. You stop answering calls from men who only remember your worth when they feel lonely. You stop reintroducing yourself to people who never took the time to understand you in the first place. You let go with grace, but you let go because healing is not just about cutting ties. It's about reclaiming the energy you gave away to people who never deserved it. It's about recognizing that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. And from that place of survival, you build a life so rooted, so radiant, so rich in truth, that anyone who dares to approach you understands she's not desperate, she's discerning, she's not waiting, she's walking, she's not hoping, she's creating, she's not dating potential, she is the potential, and only power can match her. When a woman reclaims her voice, the world hears her differently. She no longer has to scream to be seen. Her presence becomes enough. Her silence becomes power. Her no becomes final, and her yes that becomes sacred. She no longer shows up hoping to be chosen because she already chose herself. And once you've chosen yourself, you stop negotiating your peace for someone else's chaos. You stop trying to water dead gardens. You stop rearranging your life around someone who can't even manage their own. You realize that love is not a scavenger hunt. You don't have to search for scraps. You don't have to prove your worth through endurance. You don't have to wait in line hoping to be prioritized. You are not a backup plan. You are not a placeholder. You are not an option. You are the standard. And let me tell you what happens when you start living like it. You become unavailable to everything that feels familiar but costs your peace. You stop answering energy that feels like confusion. You stop mistaking comfort for compatibility. You stop mistaking history for destiny. Just because you've known him for years doesn't mean he's meant to stay. Familiarity is not the same as alignment. And longevity doesn't guarantee legacy. Sometimes the person you spent years praying for is the very reason you keep shrinking. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go so you both can grow. Because truthfully, the longer you stay in a relationship rooted in potential, the further you drift from your purpose. It's not that love is wrong, it's that misplaced love becomes a leash. And what good is love if it cages the very parts of you that make you divine? You were not created to dim. You were not designed to beg. You were never meant to perform for affection. You were born to embody wholeness so fully that anything less than honor repels you. And when a woman reaches that place, she's dangerous. She becomes immune to sweet nothings. She's no longer seduced by smooth apologies. She doesn't fall for recycled promises. Her time is too expensive. Her peace is too sacred. Her purpose is too urgent. She stops chasing potential and starts attracting purpose. And when you start attracting purpose, you attract people who match your pace, who don't interrupt your growth, but amplify it, who don't flinch at your fire because they've done their own healing. People who see your strength and don't shrink away, but rise to meet you at your level. You see, the moment you require more, less will fall away. And that's not loss, that's alignment. Let them fall. Let the man who needed you to be weak so he could feel strong fall. Let the man who called your standards too much because he never planned to rise fall. Let the man who wanted your body but couldn't handle your mind fall. Let the man who loved your light but feared your boundaries fall, because what's meant for you will never require you to dilute who you are to keep it. Your love is not a discount item. Stop letting men bargain with your brilliance. Start showing up like the woman who knows the value of her own presence, the woman who doesn't flinch at her own reflection, the woman who walks into rooms with peace in her posture and power in her spine. Because the world changes when a woman stops waiting to be rescued. She stops seeing herself as incomplete. She stops making herself responsible for a man's potential. She stops trying to heal wounds she didn't cause. She stands, she breathes, she rebuilds, and what she builds is not just a life, it's a legacy where love feels like safety, where commitment doesn't come with conditions, where effort isn't a special occasion, it's the norm, where the man in her life isn't the center of her world, he's a companion in her journey, a partner, a mirror, a king who recognizes her crown without needing to be reminded. You deserve that kind of love, but before you find it, you must become it. Become the kind of woman who doesn't entertain apologies without change. Become the woman who doesn't second-guess her intuition. Become the woman who doesn't confuse chaos with chemistry. Become the woman who understands that peace is not boring, it's the reward. You don't need fireworks, you need consistency. You don't need intensity, you need intention. You don't need a man who makes your heart race, you need a man who helps your soul rest. That kind of love is rare, but it exists, and you'll only recognize it when you stop settling for what keeps you in survival mode, when you stop craving adrenaline and start demanding alignment, when you stop saying maybe he'll change and start saying I've changed, because healing changes your taste. It changes what excites you. It changes what you allow. It changes how you define love. Love is no longer struggle, it's support. It's no longer performance, it's presence. It's no longer pain, it's partnership. So here's the truth, raw and unfiltered.
You're not empty because you love too much. You're empty because you poured into someone who refused to hold you back. You're not broken because you gave your all. You're broken because you kept asking for more and offering nothing in return. But you're not stuck there. You are not your past decisions. You are not the ghost of who you once trusted. You are not the version of yourself who didn't know better. You are evolving. You are rising. You are remembering. And as you remember, let this settle in your spirit. You don't owe anyone your future just because you shared your past. If he can't meet you where you're going, he doesn't deserve access to your journey. This next chapter is sacred. It's private. It's intentional. Only those who come with presence, peace, and purpose get a seat. And if that means the room is quiet for a while, so be it. Silence is not a void. It's a filter. Let the silence reveal who's real. Let your growth expose who was only attracted to your wounds. Let your peace make loud what their chaos tried to hide. Because when you stop chasing potential, you stop bleeding for people who never planned to bandage you. You become unavailable to confusion. You become allergic to manipulation. You become uninterested in anything that doesn't match the life you're building. And in that becoming, you arrive, whole, unbothered, unshakable, and ready for a love that doesn't feel like sacrifice, but sanctuary. Because the woman who chooses power over potential doesn't just date differently, she lives differently. She doesn't enter rooms looking for validation. She enters with clarity, with vision, with an understanding that love is not oxygen. It is an addition, not a necessity. She doesn't sit in relationships hoping to be noticed. She moves with such self-awareness that if someone fails to see her, she does not beg. She removes herself. And when she walks away, she doesn't collapse. She expands. She doesn't fall apart in his absence. She becomes more of herself, more joyful, more aligned, more free. Because real power doesn't just protect your heart, it preserves your future. And when a woman learns to protect her future, she stops wasting her present on people who cannot walk with her in purpose. See, there's a level of peace that comes when you stop trying to rescue men from the storms they keep choosing. There's a freedom that follows the decision to no longer be the emotional lifeguard for someone drowning in their own denial. You can love someone deeply and still recognize they are not equipped to carry your calling. Let that truth break the chains, because not every connection is meant to continue. Some are meant to awaken. Some are meant to teach. Some are meant to test your boundary. And when the lesson is over, your growth depends on your ability to let go without bitterness. Bitterness is a weight. Let it go. You do not have to hate him to move on. You do not have to vilify him to set yourself free. Some men are not bad, they're just unfinished. And your story is not their final chapter. You are not their editor. You are not their author. Stop trying to rewrite them into someone who fits your vision. Let the version of you who overextends, who explains too much, who makes excuses for disrespect, die here. Because a new woman is rising, one who chooses truth over illusion, one who doesn't mistake effort for intimacy, one who doesn't tie her value to how much pain she can endure in silence. She is not cold. She is not distant. She is discerning. She's the woman who doesn't just talk about boundaries. She enforces them, and she's not afraid to walk alone if it means protecting her soul. She understands now. Alignment is not about perfection. It's about peace. If a man brings confusion, contradiction, inconsistency, she doesn't try to decode it. She exits, and it's in that sacred exit that she reclaims her time. She reclaims her femininity. She reclaims her glow, her softness, her laughter, the parts of her that were buried under the weight of trying to be enough for someone who couldn't even see her. There's no applause for suffering. There's no trophy for tolerance. There's no award for how long you stay. What there is life, and you only get one. So why are you wasting it in relationships that cost your confidence? Why are you silencing your instincts, betraying your truth, editing your soul just to keep someone comfortable? Comfort will rob you of your calling if you let it. But when you get uncomfortable, when you say, I'd rather be single in peace than partnered in pain, you shift everything. You no longer fear the nights alone. You use them to build, to heal, to dream again, to become whole on your own terms. Because the woman who stops chasing love begins attracting wholeness. She attracts partners, not projects. Men who don't need fixing, but fine-tuning. Men who know what they want and aren't scared to pursue it. Men who've done the work, not just read the book. Men who see partnership not as control, but as collaboration. And suddenly you're no longer the only one bringing the table. You're sitting at one built for two. You're no longer explaining basic needs like respect and effort. You're experiencing them in real time. You're no longer praying for him to show up. You're witnessing him stand beside you with clarity, with presence, with consistency. And that is what your power attracts. But it starts with the choice, the daily, sometimes lonely, often quiet decision to no longer date from hope alone, but from healed wisdom, to no longer let chemistry override character, to no longer confuse struggle with substance, to no longer ignore the truth, just to keep the fantasy alive. Potential is addictive, but power is sobering. And when you get sober, when the emotional fog clears, you start to see what you've tolerated. You see how much time you gave to men who were never your match. You see how you contorted yourself for someone who didn't even know what to do with the gift of your love. But you don't hate yourself for that. You honor her, that past version of you. She did what she could with what she knew. She loved fully. She gave deeply. She tried. But now you lead, not from desperation, but from discernment. Not from fear of being alone, but from reverence for your future. You don't chase anymore. You choose. You choose peace over pressure. You choose clarity over chaos. You choose presence over promises. And most of all, you choose you. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful love you'll ever receive will not come from a man. It will come from your reflection. The moment you look in the mirror and say, I will never betray you again, for the sake of keeping someone else. That's the beginning of your freedom. That's the moment the begging stops. That's the moment the cycles break. That's the moment potential loses its grip. And you, my love, step fully into power. And this time you don't just walk differently. You think differently. You stop analyzing men who ghost you. You stop internalizing silence. You stop asking, what did I do wrong? And start asking, why did I allow this access in the first place? Because that's what power does. It shifts blame into responsibility. Not shame, not guilt, just clarity. And clarity is the gateway to peace. You stop entering conversations trying to convince someone of your worth. You stop hoping someone will wake up and finally get it. You realize your value is not a debate, and your standards are not an inconvenience. The right one will not flinch when you speak with conviction. He'll listen, he'll match, he'll respond with action, not excuses. So no, you're not difficult. You're just no longer available for immaturity wrapped in charm. You've lived enough. You've cried enough. You've survived enough to finally say, I don't want potential. I want presence, not half love, not half effort, not a man who's emotionally consistent only when it suits him. You want someone rooted, someone who doesn't flirt with your insecurities, then apologize with sweet nothings. Someone who doesn't trigger your abandonment wounds, just to test how much you're willing to endure. You're done with that. Done with mind games. Done with unfinished men. Done with repeating cycles in prettier packaging. And suddenly you stop fearing solitude. Because solitude reveals everything noise. Once buried, you start hearing your own voice. You start honoring your own intuition. You start nourishing your own dreams. You stop moving in response to others and start moving in response to alignment. You build routines that protect your mind. You build circles that sharpen your vision. You build boundaries that don't require explanation. You build joy that isn't dependent on another's behavior. You stop chasing butterflies and start tending your own garden. And what grows from that inner soil? Unshakable confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't rise and fall based on how someone else sees you. The kind that's quiet but certain. The kind that doesn't scream for attention. It simply exists. And the world feels it. And when he comes, the one who's aligned with your healed self, you'll recognize the difference. He won't rush you. He won't confuse you. He won't need to be convinced to show up. He'll bring stability, not adrenaline. He'll bring peace, not chaos. He'll bring direction, not detours. You won't feel the need to prove your worth to him. He'll know it before you even speak, because he's done his work too.
He knows the cost of peace, and he won't disturb yours. He'll lead with clarity. He'll apologize without defense. He'll communicate with purpose. He'll listen with intention. He'll desire all of you, your mind, your voice, your mission, not just your body, but the version of you that will meet him. She'll be different. She won't be desperate for validation. She'll be anchored in truth. She won't tolerate bare minimum energy. She'll call out inconsistency early. She won't perform beloved. She'll exist in fullness and require reciprocation. She won't chase affection. She'll attract respect. And when she walks, she'll walk with grace, with fire in her spirit and softness in her eyes. She'll be feminine but not fragile, kind but not naive, forgiving but not forgetful, loving but never again lost in love, because her identity is no longer tied to who chooses her. It's rooted in who she chooses. And if he doesn't serve the woman she's become, no matter how charming, how familiar, or how loud the history, she will let go, not out of bitterness, not out of fear, but out of reverence for the woman she refuses to abandon again. And here's what's powerful. She doesn't wait for him to become the man she needs. She keeps becoming the woman she was always meant to be. She upgrades her life. She protects her energy. She builds her vision. She creates beauty, peace, and abundance without permission. She is no longer waiting for love to complete her. She is whole. And from that place of wholeness, her life becomes a magnet, not for pain, not for potential, but for purpose. She laughs without holding back. She celebrates herself. She surrounds herself with people who clap even when she's not performing. She doesn't fear her softness. It's her superpower. She doesn't apologize for her strength. It's her shield. She doesn't minimize her ambition. It's her compass. She is divine by design, and no man, no past, no mistake can ever strip her of that truth again. So if he comes with words but no character, if he comes with charm but no consistency, if he comes with history but no growth, she will not stay, because she's no longer dating for what could be. She's choosing what already is. And what already is this. She is peace. She is power. She is presence. And nothing that requires her to forget that is worth her time.